People ask me all the time if I've ever killed anybody. When I was a little boy, my dad groomed me to report illegal activity by watching cops on TV and things like that, till I eventually reported him for selling cocaine.
Dude, I don't know why Skibbity Toilet is always getting made fun of. Not that bad if you watch it.
Are you the one friend of the fun group?
What?
Martin Cabello is an Instagram star that was born on November 29th, 1977, making him 46 years old. Before becoming Instagram famous, Martin would first join Twitter in 2014, where he didn't gain much of an audience. So 2 years later, he would expand to Instagram. Martin was originally known for his weight loss journey that he would document on Instagram and his cooking tutorial videos. What allowed Martin to lose as much weight as he did was the keto diet, which is a low-carb, high-fat diet. Because Martin was on this diet, he would switch to eating some pretty insane things like raw liver and raw eggs.
Liver. Get that in there. I'm looking for disciples to join my Raw Legion and the Nation of Christ Slam.
Psychosis would end up being a massive part of Martin's religion that he made up himself, which is called Cabelloism. The best explanation I could find as to why Psychosis is such a big part of this religion is that it's a sort of perennial philosophy that says every religion is about your diet. Jesus, Muhammad, Buddha all had some sort of diet that helped them do the miracle of Psychosis. Psychosis isn't the only thing Cabelloism is about, though. The short explanation of Cabelloism is Martin believes the Bible is a secret metaphorical code on how energy is converted into a living being. This is why he's always talking about a body of light that is real, which sounds like Israel. Light that is converted on a cross into man. And as for the body of light, it isn't clear what body of light he's talking about. It honestly looks like he's talking about light in general, because on Martin's old Flickr page that dates all the way back to 2016, he would often post pictures of the ceiling lights in his own home, the sun, or even the flashlight from his phone. But the light isn't the main focus of these images. The beams of color that comes from the light seems to be what Martin is actually talking about, because Martin himself posted a couple of color charts he made to help better understand what he's talking about. But it still makes absolutely no sense. Thanks to someone on Reddit, I was able to make sense of it in some way. With Martin's phrases on most of his posts, he uses babble, a form of written cryptography. For example, rainbow can mean Ra in bow, sun god Ra is in the bow, rainbow or light, basically stating that God resides and or is light. So this person thinks that Martin pretty much talks in code with certain words and that he believes God resides in the light or rainbow. And he believes that the hue from light creates the shape of a human, which means according to Martin, humans are made of light. Hence why the color charts he made only contain the colors of a rainbow or light. Martin has had several problems with his neighbors over the years. According to the Spokesman review, Martin's neighbors said that in 2015, Martin was a normal guy that would ask to borrow tools and spark up conversations with them. But sometime in mid-2020, all of that would change when Martin would start constantly yelling at one of his neighbors from his yard, accusing him of some pretty horrible things. At first, it started as that one neighbor, but going into 2021, Martin would start throwing allegations at almost all of his neighbors, and would frequently post videos on Instagram claiming that his neighbors, the homeowners association for his neighborhood, and his local law enforcement were involved in and covered up some sort of trafficking ring, which he actually ended up getting a cease and desist letter for.
I have here a cease and desist letter from Rose Hill Law, PLLC. They represent my homeowners association. It says, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Cabello, my firm represents the Westmore Homeowners Association. The association, the board of directors, has asked me to contact you regarding content Mr. Cabello published online which slanders and defames the association and the board of directors and individual homeowners in the community. There is significant content posted to social media platforms in a manner that defines as cyber stalking by the state of Washington.
This led to his neighbors receiving death threats, which actually caused some to move away, and 3 of his neighbors to put anti-harassment protection orders against him. 2 neighbors that seemed to be targeted the most were named Al and Jerry. Nobody knows why they're targeted so much, but according to Martin, it's because they have quote-unquote assaulted him and his family several times, which isn't true, by the way. These 2 neighbors are targeted so much to the point where there's pretty much a collection of videos where Martin is talking about Al and Jerry.
With my neighbors coming in my house and doing stuff like that. And my neighbor Al and Jerry and some of the men in my community helped them abduct me over and over again. And when they couldn't get the information from me they wanted, I think they thought they killed me because they wrapped me in garbage bags and buried me on a beach. Al and Jerry, some of the neighbors that broke into my house and assaulted me and my wife, people in your neighborhood like Al and Jerry. You think about why Al and Jerry would need to break into my house and assault me and look at my wife while she's naked and re-injure my TBI.
I don't think anything really happened between Martin, Al, and Jerry, but they could possibly be 2 of the neighbors that filed the anti-harassment protection orders against Martin. Something else I find interesting about Martin's beef with his neighbors is that around 3 years ago, one of them ended up getting so fed up with the harassment to the point where they made a Reddit account and started posting everything they know about Martin. The problem is, nobody on Reddit could ever figure out if this was a real neighbor of Martin, but they seem to have a lot of information on him. Like in this post they made where they show a screenshot of the alleged multiple arrests of Martin for domestic violence. But once again, nobody knows if any of these charges were actually from Martin or if they're real at all. But they did claim that you can go to the Washington State Patrol website and buy the report for $11 yourself. I'm definitely not going to do that myself, but that could prove that it's real. But what really makes me think that this isn't one of Martin's neighbors is that they would always say that they posted all of the info on their Instagram page, which to me sounds like they're just trying to get followers. But when you go to their page, there's something much more interesting. A statement from Martin's supposed nephew, which I highly doubt is real, but I'll give you guys a short summary of the post anyway. So basically, Martin is now a disgrace to his family. Most of the stuff he says isn't true at all. He was never in the Air Force, which he claimed to be, and he's allegedly lying about having autism, which is a lie because Martin was diagnosed with a form of it. And to add on to that, Martin's brother that he claimed blew himself up in this viral video.
Here's my gas can. My brother Josh blew himself up and his 2 kids.
Was never actually his brother, but another one of his neighbors. But Martin's brother's name is Josh. The last thing I'm going to be talking about when it comes to Martin Cabello is where he is today. So Martin is now in custody and has been for a while. He is currently charged with harassment, 3 counts of stalking, and 3 counts of cyber harassment. The cyber harassment charges came from him violating the protection orders his neighbors put against him, which I mentioned earlier. Martin was supposed to stand trial for these charges, but was judged incompetent and was later moved to a mental health facility. During Martin's first week of admission into the mental health facility, he was prescribed medication, which he obviously didn't want to take because he almost immediately asked if he was required to take it or not, which he wasn't. He then questioned if him being found competent would affect his ability to collect Social Security disability income, and then denied having any kind of hallucinations, but he did seem to have hyper-religious and somatic delusions. Martin's current mental status says that he has schizophrenia, and at the time of his judgment, he was in an acute episode. And according to Washington's Department of Social and Health Services, Mr. Cabello made numerous medical and mental health complaints, some of which were likely influenced by delusions, including autism spectrum disorder, Savant syndrome, Tourette's disorder, epilepsy, a broken neck and titanium spine, cerebral occlusion with infarction, transient ischemic attack, and a traumatic brain injury. Martin also reported that he was diagnosed with high-functioning Asperger's at age 4 or 5, which he received behavioral therapy for and tried a lot of different medications for the disorder. And he reported that he had prior diagnosis for obsessive compulsive disorder and chronic PTSD, which definitely explains how insane some of his posts are. And of course, Martin had to make sure they knew he was TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook famous, which they found to be obviously true and not another one of Martin's delusions. All of that was only a very small part of Martin's evaluation, but in the end, they pretty much recommended antipsychotic medications for Martin to restore his competency. But what's great about that is they believe there's a reasonable likelihood Martin would improve and regain competency with his medication, which means Martin has somewhat of a chance at getting himself back together. And that's pretty much it for Martin Cabello. Overall, the stuff he did was pretty crazy, but he's currently getting the help he needs, which is great. And I know I said he's currently in custody, which I'm 90% sure he is, but there is a slight chance he was released already, because there is an account that could actually be Martin on TikTok that is posting again. I personally don't think it's him because I haven't seen anything official that says he was released, but who really knows at this point?
All dream stands should spontaneously combust into flames and die. Anyways, I'm off to eat the BTS Hungry Jack's burger.
No DJ Khaled, but we the best. Them chops howling, where you a best. If I catch you, I walking you down.